Got one of the most difficult ones here that we kind of think is difficult. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3 plus 3. Okay. What is my very first step? Raise your hand before I start graphing anything, putting anything on a graph. There's one step I have to make sure of, and let's see if you get it. Mackenzie?
Make a table.
Okay, you can make a table, and even before that, there's one thing I wanted you to do because it's going to apply to these other problems you have to do. You have to get y by itself. And you're like, Mr. A, okay, we already had that. Be thankful for that. Do they all have y by itself? Look at the problem, sorry. Look at the problems. Are they all where y is by itself? Nope. Yeah, numbers 29, 30, 31, and 35, and even 37 doesn't even have a y. What do we do there? Okay, you want to get y by itself. Thankfully, it's there. Okay, now we make our table. I think I'll do it all on the board here. And I'm going to do this. You have to get from here on out 3 points. 1 positive, 1 negative, and 0. Is that okay? All right, so here I have my 3 columns. And what I want you to do with fractional problems, listen carefully. You notice that it's still pretty tall? That's a good thing. I'm not going to divide it into 4 rows. I'm dividing it into 3 rows. But those rows should be kind of high for each one. Because fractions, you're going to have a fractional problem. Make it a little bit thicker on the height. So just because you're doing 3 doesn't mean it just gets shorter. And by the way, don't make it too small. Because I'm seeing some of your work is like really, really tiny. And maybe you can see it. I say maybe. But then you're going to miss a little negative. Throws your whole answer off. What's the title of this column? X. The title of the last column? Y. And then what should go here? This is another important thing. Elizabeth? Negative 1/2 x plus 3? Negative 1/2 x plus 3. Okay. So now we get to pick some x values. And there are good x values to pick, and there are more difficult x values to pick. This is when you're dealing with fractions. So take a mental note here. I'm always going to pick 0, so 0 is good. 0 is good. Pick 0, put it in the middle. I usually put the positive in the negative or vice versa. What's a good x value to pick? Not all x values are good. So what is a good one and why? Max, what do you think? 2. Okay, so you're going to pick positive 2. Why is like 2 a good point? Or a good x? Because this is going to help you on the other fractional problems. You're like, oh, okay. Bella? Oh, negative 1 would be another point. I would say negative 2 might be better. And you're like, man, why is he so picky on that? What do you think? Emma Grace? Okay, look at your fraction right here. You see negative 1/2? Negative 1/2 times 1 would be negative 1/2. But then you have to add that to 3. Not too difficult, but it is a little bit more difficult. What's negative 1/2 times 2?
1.
Negative 1. And negative 1 plus 3, 2. Easy to do.
Wait, no, it is 1.
Sorry, negative 1/2 times 2. Sorry, just that part. Okay, you're going to do the same thing you did last time. Negative 1/2 blank plus 3. Negative 1/2 blank plus 3. Negative 1/2 blank plus 3. Please replace the x with parentheses all the way through. 3 times. And if you do it that way, you're going to be able to get the sign correct in your answer. So what number should go in the first blank? 2. Second blank?
0.
Third blank? Okay, so you put those numbers. And again, if you don't put the right sign, the answer is going to come off. You plot them, you put them on the graph, and you're like, oh man, it's a V. I don't want a V, I want a line. So make sure you're careful here. Okay, and this one, listen, on these problems that they're fractions, you don't have to only work it out in this box. Like if you're like, Mr. I really don't know how to do this. Well, you can work it out here. Negative 1/2 times 2 over 1 plus 3. You can do that. But if you can do it a little bit more mentally, you can just work it out here as well. So you have options. You don't have to squeeze it on in here and try to get common denominators, all that. Don't worry about that. Okay, So what's negative 1/2 times 2 over 1? Negative 1, right? Because don't these 2's cancel each other out? And what's negative 1 plus 3? 2. So that's my y value. And you know why I like 0? Because it's nice. What's negative 1/2 times 0?
0.
Oh, 0. 0 plus 3? 3. Okay, that's nice. And then here you have to be extra careful, and if you write too small, you won't even see it. But what's a negative times a negative? So what's 1/2 times 2? So this is positive 1 plus 3, 4. Be super, super careful. If you mess up here, your graph is messed up. You do all the coordinates all perfectly, the points, got them. Uh-oh. Wait, no. Okay. So you get the points, you get the problem pretty much set. Yes, did you have a question, John?
No, I got
Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to graph it. So if you guys can draw your coordinate plane. What are your ordered pairs that are represented in our table? Marissa? 2, 2, 0, 3, and negative 2, 4. So if I'm looking at those coordinates, I'm thinking I really don't have to go past 4 on any axis, positive or negative. So I'll draw mine up here. Use the tick marks that they give you on the graph paper, by the way. That's why we call it graph paper, because they already gave us a nice way to organize our graphs. Okay, someone describe for me where 2, 2 would go. Jack, from the origin, where do you go?
Over to the right 2, and then up 2, right there.
Okay, good. How do I go to 0, 3? Starting at the origin, where do you go? Emma Grace?
You go over 3.
Which way? So the first number is 0, so you don't go left or right at all.
Go up 3.
1, 2, 3. So here's your point. And then what about negative 2, 4? Mackenzie?
You go to the left twice, and then you go up 4.
Okay, something like that. And do they form a line?
Yes.
Connect them. And you don't have to make your lines absurdly long, but try to cover your graph. You see how I went from the top left all the way as far as I can? Just so when we grade it, you'll be able to see these other points there. Okay, that's your graph. How many answers are there? Infinite. How many do we have?
3.
Infinite.
Oh, trick question.
Yeah. Remember, you do have 3 points, but you actually are representing all of them here. If you're looking at your graph and you do a straight line, you're pretty confident of it. Can someone give me another ordered pair that would be on there? Let's see if it's really true. Try to find it on your graph. Mine is a little bit difficult because they're not perfectly spaced, but yours should be a little bit easier to do. So not these 3 points. Give me another point that should be on there. Callie?
Could you do like 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, and stay?
So what would be that ordered pair? 5.
5, 0.
Okay, you know what? I don't know. And then you said 0? Okay. Negative 1/2 times 5 is negative 5 halves, which is negative 2.5. Negative 2.5 plus 3 is a half. So, yeah, it looked like it, and you're really close, but here, because my graph is a little off, so 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a half. Oh, not bad. But do you see where it'd be 5 and 1/2 would be an ordered pair? Good. Anyone else want to try a different point? Sophia?
I'm just looking at.
Oh. You trust my graph?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Couldn't 4 and negative 4. I mean.
Okay.
And
This is a tough one.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little off. But, I mean, it might look at, but I'm talking, look at your graph, because your graph should be like a line. You could be, boom, right there. Jack?
Negative 4,
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say that might be there. So how do I know for sure? You would do the math and you would figure it out. So you said negative 4, 5, negative 4, 5 would work. Negative 4, 5 is like up here. Something like that. Okay. One more, Marissa?
Would 4 and 1 work?
1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Yes. A little off.
Let's see. What's negative 1/2 times 4? Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. That does work. Do you guys see how many points we have here? We probably picked 7 or 8 of them, and they're actually infinite numbers. So you can get can you get 1/2 what that would equal? You could if you worked it out there. Okay, good. How many of you you're getting comfortable with this? Okay. Was it that bad with the fraction, by the way? No, it wasn't too bad. Just make sure you do the math right. If you get fractional answers, you can still graph those. Those are possible. Yes, ma'am.
See, I was listening to you do the math and
Oh.
trying to work it out on my paper.
Uh-huh.
And you said 0 first, but you didn't put 0 in the first column, which got me mixed up because I put 0 in the first column.
Oh, right here.
So I did the math wrong. So
I'm confused too.
messed up by- yeah.
I'm sorry, Bella. You can look at the video if you want and catch it, or the next problem might help you out. Okay, how many of you are a little bit more comfortable with even the fractional problem? Good, because I want you to try number 32.
Do we only have to do
3 points. And the graph. Yep, 32. Yeah, draw it on the graph. Draw the line. What's a value you must always pick? 0. And then what would you pick? You can make your life easy or you can make it difficult. Caroline?
I put -3.
-3. Why would you pick -3?
Then we need to multiply by 1/3.
Yep. And then what's another positive value you can use? John? 3. Positive 3. In fact, any multiple, do you remember that word multiple? Do you remember hearing that word before? Any multiple of 3 will be a good number to pick. 6 would be a good number. 9, 12, 15, because they're really easy to multiply by 1/3.
Could you do 1?
You could do 1. Yes, you can. You are allowed to. It will work. Just make sure you graph it correctly. So I have my X, I have my Y. What's the heading of this top part right here in the middle, Braden?
1/3 X.
1/3 X. So here I put 1/3 times X, 1/3 times X, 1/3 times X. Fill in the blanks with the numbers I picked. What's 1/3 times -3? John? -1. What's 1/3 times 0? Jack?
0.
Yes, that is correct. And what is 1/3 times 3? 1. Okay, then you put your pairs.
You have to do the tick marks.
No, I do it because I don't have the grid. You have the grid, just use those little lines they gave you. Use the lines they gave you, by the way. And later I'm going to let you modify it a bit, because you notice how every tick mark on my graph is always equal to 1. It's like 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2. You can actually do it by 2s. You could have done it 2, 4, 6, 8. You could go by 10s. I know. 10, 20, 30, 40. And that's when you have huge numbers. You could do that. Or numbers that are more spread out. Okay, someone help me out. I need some points on this graph. And my hand is getting tired. Okay. Caroline, if you can give me the first one, -3, -1. And then Josie, you can give me 0, 0. And then Sydney can give me 3, 1. Okay, and then hand it off to Josie. Oh, sorry, I only need 3. Oh, but I do need someone with a steady hand. Steady hand. Mr. A struggles with that. He gets nervous in front of a crowd, and can't keep it steady. You know what actually shakes your hand? There's something that actually shakes you without you trying. What's going on in your hand, even just by sitting there? What's happening? Physical science. Thank you. Who's the last one? Steady hand will be Braden. Isn't blood pumping?
Yes.
So isn't that movement?
Yes.
So your hand is moving right now. It's just, you can't tell all the time, but it's moving. And then there are nerves in there. They're also moving. So you have movement there. Look at that. Nice one.
If you do it by one, you take a straight line too.
Yes, yeah. If you got 1, you got 1 and 1/3. So let's see, 1 and 1/3. That's right there. If you did -1, you got -1/3. -1, -1/3. Yep.
And you got 0.
And then 0, 0. Look at that. How many of you got that line? How many feel more confident? Good, because let's get to a difficult problem. Okay, the next most difficult problem, no longer with fractions. So pick one. Out of those, which one's the most difficult not dealing with fractions? We already know which ones are fractions. Top right, you can write that number on the top right. Pick your second type of problem that might be really bad, really scary, really difficult. Oh no. Okay, I'm sorry, and write it, and then I'll ask. Can I see if I can? Oh yeah, go ahead, John.
What if it's the same one as you did last one?
Oh, that's okay, yeah. If it wasn't a fractional one, yeah, you can pick that one. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can read your minds. Hold on. Downloading information. Error. Sorry, can't do that. Okay. I think the next most difficult one would be 30. Whoa. Oh, look at these guys. 30?
36.
Okay. 31? Okay, one of you. I'm not doing too well here. Okay, ready? 37. Okay. 36. Did someone not put anything on it? Okay, all right. 35. Whoa, 35. Okay, I'll go with, I'm going to go with 35, and then I'm going to do 36. Yeah, go ahead.
For the ones that have, like, y.
Just one variable?
Yeah,
Huh?
wouldn't it just be y plus that number?
No, it's actually simpler than that. It's simpler than that. And then it's cool, okay? Yes, ma'am.
What about number 27?
Oh, because we already did that one last night? Yeah. But it was that difficult, you're like, I gotta do it again. All right, anyway, let's do, what did I say, number 35. Okay, 35 is x plus y equals 0. Okay. What's my very, very first step? I've tried to make an emphasis of this, and I think is that Marissa. Can you give me the answer? Okay, y is not by itself. What's being added with y? Okay, now I don't think we've dealt with these problems per se. How do you think you can get rid of x from that left side? It's being added with y. I want to get y by itself, and this is where we're in algebra. This is algebra right here. Elizabeth?
You can subtract x.
If I subtract x from both sides, is that allowed? Of course it is. You're doing the same thing to both sides. And you're like, but it's 1x minus 1x, right? What's 1x minus 1x? 0x, which is equal to 0. So they got eliminated. They're done. So I'm left with y equals negative 1x. That is correct. Okay? So is y by itself?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now we'll make our table. And this one's not fractional, we're thankful for. How many values do I need to pick for x? 3. So I'm going to label x, y, and negative 1 times x. Okay, so this is where you can have free reign. Pick your x values. It really doesn't matter as long as you don't want to go overboard with the numbers and then have to graph this big thing. Jack?
1.
1. Callie?
-2.
-2. Ooh. Sophie?
0.
0. Okay, we'll go with those. You can go with -1. You can go with +2. Maybe 5. -3. Okay, just any number. Okay, so what I do is I put -1 times x, -1 times x, -1 times x. 1, 0, -2. Don't do these in your head, guys. I'm telling you right now, you want to save yourself a lot of trouble, don't do it in your head. Just write it out. Mr. A, that takes too long. Really? That? Yes.
Unless it's just x.
Unless it's just x, and then we're going to see on the next problems, you don't even have to do the table.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am? Okay. What's -1 times 1? What's -1 times 0?
0.
Just 0. You could say +0 or -0, but it's just 0.
You do the 0 in the middle.
Sorry?
You do the 0 in the middle.
Yeah, because I tend to put the positive and the negative values on opposite sides or vice versa. But you don't have to. You could do 0, 1, -2. Go ahead, John.
Wouldn't that make it then you couldn't, like, isn't it a lot easier because now you can just find a pattern if you go up by 1 or down by 1?
Yes, yeah, you could. And just be careful with the patterns. There is a pattern, yes. Just make sure you found it properly. All right, what's -1 times -2? 2. All right, go ahead and draw it real quick. Hopefully it doesn't take you too long because this is not a big graph. And when I say big graph, that means you don't have to make it a big graph, although all the graphs are the same size, right? Because if all their answers are infinite, all of them are infinite, so they're all the same size, but you don't have to show it all. Or do you? Could you? Okay, first order pair. I need someone to help me out. Sophie, come on up. If you've gone already up here, don't raise your hand. Sorry. Just for today. John, the second one. Oh, I'm sorry, Sophie.
You're good.
And Bella, the third. And then I need someone who's steady. Jack. Okay, so next person, John, and then Bella's next after John, and then Jack.
The hardest one.
Nice. Now, you notice we get 0, 0 a lot, but do we always get 0, 0? Oh, my. Finish this up. Finish this up. Oh. It is. It is. It's good. It's a good sign. You guys did really well. And I'm going to change your homework so that it's not that bad.
I messed up my
But-
grade, so.
How do I erase this?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that was good. It's like right here.
So you go -2
I
up.
didn't go up. I know. I got it right on my paper.
Sort of like a line, but.
Okay, listen carefully. I'm going to give you your homework. It's going to be 41 to 49 odd. 49 is a bonus question because we didn't go over that type necessarily. But be careful when your first step is to solve for y. Get y by itself. So 41 to 49 odd, page 389.
Thank you, Mr.
I can give you your test to leave here. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.